Hi, good morning. Welcome to this presentation in the Gladwell Agile Coach Conference. My name is Jobbeke and I am the founder and director of Toughless. And Toughless is a Dutch company that is set up to bring systems thinking in organizations. And it's really abstract systems thinking, but once you know what it is and you're able to work with it, it'll enable you as a leader or as an agile coach or as a team coach or any professional to do interventions that really help teams and other systems perform better. So it'll make you more effective and it will make your teams more effective. Okay, so systems thinking, one of the principles that underlies systems thinking is that the whole is not the same as the sum of its parts. Now, that is quite an abstract sentence. So you might be able to relate to this following sentence. I have a lot of clients in organizations saying some kind of variation to this sentence, like they're wonderfully talented individuals. They're so motivated, they're so professional, but when we come together in the meeting, the atmosphere is completely different. Or something like, if I speak to them individually, they're very professional, but when we're together, it's like it's a group of toddlers. I don't know if you can relate to that. I had this experience for I don't know how many time, a couple of weeks ago. I am training a group of physicians in a hospital, and besides their physician role with their clients, they also have a leadership role in where they have to get their teams to perform more autonomously. And prior to the training, I spoke to every one of them individually. And I found these conversations to be really, really nice. I found them to be very open, very curious, friendly, etc. So I was really looking forward to the first module of the training that we had to do online, obviously. So that was already different from how it started. And then during the course of the first morning, around the afternoon, I found myself to be struggling. So this was not at all the open, curious group that I thought I'd encounter. The group was actually quite closed, and it was challenging me. And I was thinking, what's happening? Why am I struggling? And then I thought, oh, it's like I try to lead, but they're not following me. Or every time I would like them to follow and just go with the course, I get some kind of pushback from the group. Now, I don't know if you recognize this as an agile coach, but actually from a systems perspective, it's logical. And I will, if by the end of this presentation, you have some concrete handles on how to see systems as a whole, then this will have been a good presentation. System as a whole. When you enter a group, a team, any kind of group, you are programmed, your brain is programmed to look at each and every individual. And this is normal. This even has survival value. You want to see who is in the group. You want to see if they're friendly, if they're not friendly. You want to see if you can who you can bond with or who you could just easily ignore. And we are programmed and also trained to make behavior personal. So we link individual behavior to personal individual traits, talents, pitfalls, characteristics, what have you. And we don't just do this making behavior personal for every individual that we see, we also do it to ourselves. I don't know if you've ever been to a meeting, maybe a boardroom meeting or some kind of meeting, and at the end of the meeting, you sort of, you boomerang yourself when you say, oh, I should have voiced my opinion more, I should have taken more space, or oh, I was too dominant again, I was taking too much space. So that's an example of how we also make our own behavior personal. And when you're working with a team as a whole, as a system that is not the same as the sum of its parts, it requires you to take another step and take a little bit of distance and try to see something different than the individual. So I've tried to draw it here as like a cloud-like organism that looks completely different from what the individuals look like. And the rule of thumb is that the whole, like a team, is a different organism than the individual members. And if you expect to see individual traits reflected in the team as a whole, you're usually disappointed. So individuals can be really professional, very grown up, very motivated. But once we join a system, something else happens. It's like the team sort of grabs hold of us and influences our behavior. And if you look at it like that, like our behavior is really very much influenced by the team as a whole, then individual behavior is just information about the system as a whole. It's not just personal. But that goes against your primal programming to not take it personal. So this takes a bit of training. So what can we say about teams as a whole if it's not the same as its members? Well, the team will have its own goal. And the goal of a team is different from the individual goals. So if I am a teacher for a group, my individual goal will be to teach my students. But if I'm a teacher and I'm a member of a team of teachers, then the goal for the group as a whole might be to give qualitatively the best education that we can as a school, which is like, it's a different goal. And a team has its own characteristics. It can be very open, very friendly, or quite closed and not friendly at all, or whatever you could think of. A team has its own learning pace. Teams, as a rule of thumb, learn a lot slower than what individuals do. And the larger the team, the slower it can learn and the slower it works, really. And of course, its own dynamic. And every team has its own dynamic. I'm sure you recognize that in your daily practice. So if you look at a team, you look at the behavior of the members and you ask yourself the question, okay, so what is the behavior of the members telling me about the system as a whole? That's not taking it personally. And this includes your own behavior and your own experiences. So no experience in a team is only personal. It's information about the team as a whole. Now, this is always a hypothesis. You test this. But this way of thinking will help you see the team as a whole rather than the individuals. Now, of course, we're not just talking about any teams. We're talking about teams as being task-oriented systems. So once you get into the context of an organization, and of course, agile teams within the organization, these are systems of living human beings together that are not just together there to have fun, they're there to have a task, they have a common task. And in order to achieve this task or get the results that they need to as a collective, they have to collaborate together. So that's easy, right? But our brains aren't wired to be in a task system. Of course, we can perform tasks, but something else is underlying. Our brains and our upbringing was in a whole different type of system. Living human beings, absolutely, but a family system. And in a family system or a group of friends or what have you, there isn't a task that binds us together. It's connection to each other that binds us together. So you could say love is the connecting factor in the systems where we were programmed or where we grew up. And this stays alive in our brain. So it's crucial to our brain to connect to others, to feel safe. So the need to connect to others, the need to have a position or a place in the group is fundamental to our survival. So what happens? What happens in a team or a task system? So above the surface, we will be talking about goals, about results, about structure, agreements, whatever. This will be what the conversation is about. But meanwhile, in most systems, like below the surface, in the undercurrent or the undertow, a whole different dynamic is going on. Because the primal parts of our brain will be, beyond our awareness mostly, will be scanning like, okay, so who can I connect to? What is my social position in this group? Where do I rank? What behavior do I need to show here in order to rank higher or lower or just be invisible so I can live through this meeting? All of this stuff goes on usually beyond our own consciousness. And this is about position in the group, connection, basically survival, even if we're unaware of it. So one way to look at it is that there is this common task for your agile team. There is this common goal that they want to achieve together. But meanwhile, the energy that the members bring in. So the members are the resources that the team needs in order to get its results. And the energy just goes everywhere. So it goes towards survival. And this is visible in the behavior of the members. They behave in a way that is not helping the system get through the goals. And underneath the behavior is their thoughts. Oh, I'd better not show myself here, or I'd better take a lot of space. Whatever emotions there could be, like being annoyed or frustrated or maybe scared, and physical sensations too. So the dynamic in the system influences what happens in the individual members in the task system. And the effect is the results aren't concrete. So people could be really doing very well individually, but as a team, there's a lack of concrete common results, and frustration will rise. I don't know if you recognize this. So it's really interesting from starting tomorrow to look at your systems and to just think, where's the energy going? Is it being directed at the task, or is it getting lost in all sorts of other dynamics in this team? Because that's where you come in as an Agile coach or as a leader or other professional. Is a way to look at intervening in task systems is focusing the available energy that is there in the members and trying to get as much of that energy focused towards achieving the common results, to get the energy directed at the goal. That is what you want, right? That'll get high achieving teams. And when a team does really well, it does something to our experienced connection. Like we feel we have a place, we feel safe, we feel happy, and it gets a bit lighter. At Tachlis, we work with the 4 intervention zones. Now, they are 4 zones that are above the surface and below the surface. And they are there to help you get concrete interventions in all 4 areas. Now, it is my experience that for Agile coaches, the Agile method of working provides for fantastic structure above the surface. So that does really well, and that is extremely important in teams' performance. But maybe you recognize that you've got a fantastic structure above the surface and still a lot of stuff is going down below the surface that is still keeping the team or the task system from performing properly or effectively. So I'll go through the first 2 zones a bit quicker. So above the surface, you want clear common goals. You want them to be common goals, not individual goals. You want goals that focus energy. So they have to be concrete, small steps, and rather small ones that follow up on each other than one big abstract goal. Because an abstract goal or implicit goals, they make for the energy to go everywhere, because I will think, oh, okay, so I think the goal is, and I will work for the goal that I've just made an interpretation about, and my colleague will probably do the same, and then we could be working alongside each other, but not together. I don't know if you recognize this. Zone 2 has to do with functional roles. And I know you have roles in Agile as well, but here from the intervention zones, what you want with functional zones is that the members are absolutely clear on what the membership of them in their task system requires them to do. So I'll go back to the teachers. If I'm a teacher, I've just been teaching my class, that's a different functional role from me being a member of my teacher team that has a different task. So behavior that could be very, very functional in one context is not functional in another context. And usually we're not specifically aware about that. So we don't really know, what does membership of this team require from me? Okay, so to help you use this in practice, at Tachlis, we use the 4 intervention zones, and they are designed to help you make really effective interventions both above the waterline and below, because they're equally important. And I've learned that the methodology of Agile really provides for very secure, safe structures above the waterline, and this is really necessary. So that's fantastic about the Agile way of working. So zone 1, you want clear common goals. And keep in mind that a common goal for a team or a task system is not the same as the individual goals for the members. So that's important. So you want to have clarity, okay, so what is our common goal together? And a clear goal is, it focuses energy because it's concrete, so please no abstract. Abstract just does nothing but introduce noise into the system, because I will make my own personal interpretation of what I think the goal is. And we'll all make different personal interpretations of what we all think that the goal is. This is actually what I encounter in a lot of teams and organizations. And you want small steps rather than large or complex. A team task system can't really work large or complex. It gets lost in complexity. So you wanted small, concrete. That's important in zone 1. Zone 2 has to do with the functional roles. And I know Agile has roles right up there in the methodology, but this might be a little different. What I want in zone 2 is that the members of the task system have awareness upon what being a member of this task system requires from them. What are they responsible for? But more than just responsibility, it has to be clear to everyone what kind of behavior is necessary when I step into my membership role of this system. So say, like, if we go back to the doctors I was talking about earlier in the course, I think being critical and analyzing is a very, very important trait when you're in the room with your patient. And of course, being critical is also important when you're in a course. You don't want to accept just anything. But the way that the system there worked was the members showing behavior, which was like giving me as a teacher the pushback and not really integrating any of the new information. Now, this would slow the results of the course down. So in a way, this is behavior that the system shows. It's not just personal, but the behavior is not helping them achieve their goals, which would be to learn how to facilitate autonomous teams, which was their goal. So that's what zone 2 is about. Am I aware of what my membership asks of me in terms of responsibilities and behavior? And do we want this to be explicit, shared together? It's not just personal, it goes for all of us. And we might have different functional roles within the same task system. Usually there's a leadership role and there's a membership role, but it could be all sorts of roles. Then we go below the surface, because you might have zone 1 and 2 set up really nicely and it's still not working. So what you want to know when you go below the surface, you want to see, okay, so how are the interaction patterns? Here, this is where the group as a whole comes in place again. You want interaction patterns between the members that allow for the members to build together on their common goal or their common result. And that requires interaction that actually allows for building. And most of our interaction patterns don't in groups. It'll be my truth against your truth, or I just won't say anything altogether because it's not safe here. And that is all sorts of behavior that doesn't help the system acquire its goals that it should. So this is what you look out for as an Agile coach. How are they interacting together? And is the way that they're interacting helping them achieve the goals, or is it just a manifestation of energy going everywhere except to the goal? And zone 4, remember the phrase, nothing is just personal. That's where zone 4 comes in. So your experience when you're an Agile coach and you walk into the room, it is really important that you are very curious about, okay, so what's happening to me? What am I experiencing? And this doesn't actually just go for you as the Agile coach. This is something that is true for every member of the system. Everyone's experience is information about the system as a whole, what's alive in the system as a whole. So if I feel that I'm on guard, or if I feel like, oh, I just want to play and I don't want to care about the results or whatever, or if I feel very serious and uptight, this is information about the system as a whole. And if you learn how to bring this into an intervention, your experience, you get really effective in addressing what's below the surface and helping the task system as a whole develop, learn, and transform. So you want to use your experience. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of this presentation. Just some takeaways and some conclusions. Just remember, the team is not the same as the sum of its parts, even though your brain will want to look at it that way. A team shows itself through the behavior of its parts, and that's how we look at behavior from the individuals. A team is a task system, and that means that there's a common task that connects the members, and this requires co-workership. That's when we start doing these kinds of interventions. But our brain isn't programmed to be in a task system. Our brain is programmed to connect to others first, to be in a love system. So our energy will firstly be directed at obtaining and maintaining our place in the system and connections to others first. It's just how we are built. That's how we survive. And you help a system direct the available energy towards the task, and this requires clear goals, clear roles, functional interaction patterns below the surface, and members learning how to use their experience in the here and now functionally. And you go first as an Agile coach. That's your role. So if you're interested about this, if you want to learn more, please feel very, very welcome to contact us or me at www.taflis.nl or mail at info@taflis.nl. And of course, you can find me on the Gladwell app as well, or just Google my name. There's only one of me here in Holland. Thank you very much for your attention. I might see you after this in the questions and answer room.